You're listening to Tech Suite for the C-Suite, where we bridge the gap between technology and executives. Hey Kurt, glad to have you on. How are you?
Great, Sam. Great to be here.
Awesome. Feel free to give a little introduction into who you are. From my mind, you're like the AI guy. I see you talking about AI and applications and all that, and it's really cool to have someone outside of the blockchain field on here to also talk about AI. They're kind of closely related because all the data on blockchain you have can be used with AI, but feel free to introduce yourself.
Sure. So Kurt Stein, DCT Strategy. We are an AI consulting firm. We're actually focused on digital transformation, and AI is a digital transformation for a business. So customers are coming to us every day saying, hey, what's this AI? We really need to take a look at it. So we have 20 data scientists that we pull from a pool, and we provide solutions to companies to get their AI strategy and actually implement their AI strategy and move into the AI world.
That's awesome. I saw your content. You're getting people ready for AI and ready to not be disrupted. But before we actually go into the business case and why it makes sense or why it doesn't make sense, how would you actually explain AI to somebody who has no or next to no technical prior experience?
Sure. So the simplest way, I always love this, try to explain it, break it down to its simplest parts. AI is best for taking vast amount of information, correlating it, and giving you a quick response. That's probably the best thing for it. So you have a ton of data and you don't know what to do with that data, or you're looking for information within that data. AI can help get that for you instantaneously. So that's what AI is for, and that's what businesses want to use it for.
So it's like, okay, I have a business, I have a lot of data, I don't know what to do with it. Is there actually any insight in that? And then you just kind of plug AI into it and get insights out of it, right?
Yes. So if you take AI, for instance, say you are a retail business, you have credit card information from everybody that purchases things. You have maybe demographic data for what age group is buying things, whether it's male, female, whatever it may be. You're looking at all that information, and what you want to understand is who's buying what, which product is doing well. Can you give me some forecasting of what things are going to be going forward, how things were going backward? There's software in the market that does some of that, but AI will take all that data, correlate it, and provide you an instantaneous response. So if you want to know, hey, look, where are people buying from within the store? Is there an area I should put certain products in the store? AI can determine that for you. If you want to be able to come in with insights of who's buying what's buying, and then what should we keep or what should we get rid of, because from a profit standpoint, AI will do that for you quickly. And that's just in a store perspective. If a bank wanted to use it for credit card fraud, Amex, American Express and MasterCard and Visa have been doing this for years. How else do they know that if you're in Germany and you go to the US for a week and you start buying stuff from different places, all of a sudden they flag you and say,
Yep,
whoa,
I
you're
always get a mail. I always get a mail.
so they're using that from an AI perspective. So they're taking tons of data. They're taking positional data or geographic data. They're taking your spending habits. They're taking your habits in general. They correlate all that information and say, wait a minute, you were buying all this stuff here in Germany, or you buying all this stuff here in US, and now all of a sudden you just went somewhere else and you started buying a TV. You don't buy TVs. You started going to a movie theater. You started going to a pawn shop to go buy some jewelry. Everything goes off. They're using AI to correlate vast amount of information and provide an output to say to somebody, here's what it is. And then you
Yep.
have generative AI, which is what people use on GPT, generates new thoughts and ideas. So if you have information, you put it in there, say, I want this, it generates a new idea for you. So that's AI in its simplest form. And it's being used every day all around us.
That's really awesome. How did you get into AI? Like how did you get to where you are now?
Yeah. So don't mind the gray beard and stuff. I've been in technology for a long time. I actually started at AT&T in 1998. So I was there for 16 and a half years, and then I left and started a company called Vista Tech Solutions, which was I became an independent contractor for AT&T. You're like, what does that mean? Well, instead of being a W-2 employee for AT&T, I left and became a contractor for AT&T, and I would just work alongside their sales team and sell all their products and services. AT&T liked that because they didn't have to pay me a salary anymore, health
Yep.
insurance, 401k, training, on it. They didn't have to deal with any of that. They just paid me when I sold a deal. And I did that well, actually, I still have the business. So I'm doing it from 2013, 2014 to now. But I founded DCT Strategy in 2022. And the reason that came about was I'm in the business every day talking about telecommunication solutions, working with some of the largest
Yep.
companies in the world. Digital transformation is where companies are trying to change and adapt to all the technical changes in this world. And not to get complicated, but digital transformation is all around us. Snapchat, Facebook, X, TikTok,
Yep.
Uber Eats. Everything is all around us. Uber itself, it's a digital transformation. Our life has changed from a technology perspective. And then you had COVID came, shut the world down. And then business started changing from that perspective. And I was looking at it going, wait a minute, everything I'm doing in my existing business, everybody's asking me for consulting work. They're all asking me for, what should I do? What circuit should I put in? What bandwidth do I need? Does this make sense? Is this the right provider I should use? And I'm like, I'm doing all this for free in the event of getting paid for selling a product and service. I said, so why don't I just start consulting companies and get paid for giving all this information out?
Yep.
I mean, that's not doing anything. It's like companies get paid to do work all the time. So I found it's a digital transformation company, but as you see what happened in 2022, ChatGPT and AI burst onto the scene. I mean, it's been around for a very long time. A lot of companies have been using it, but the mainstream didn't really get that big
For
burst
sure.
of AI until ChatGPT came along. It's almost like the iPhone, right? You had phones, you had iPod, you had messages and stuff, but then all of a sudden the world was ready for it, and they were ready for ChatGPT. And once they saw how easy the interface was and how quickly stuff came back, everybody's eyes opened up. So what did every customer ask for? AI. AI is still digital transformation. It's changing your business digitally in order to work with the market. So that's how we came about. So it went from AT&T, Vista Tech Solutions, which I still run with a whole team, and into consulting, and then AI burst onto the scene. We're already doing digital transformation. It's a natural progression to have my consultants work with their data scientist backgrounds and start supporting companies in the AI side.
No, it's really awesome. Like if you have the data scientists already, why not leverage them, right?
Exactly.
In terms of when you go from okay, well, digital transformation into AI, what's the most non-AI thing you're excited about in digital transformation?
It's probably the strategy. So look, there's people that get very involved in the technical aspect. I love building this. I like seeing an outcome and response. I
That's
like
me.
that, right?
That's me.
And that's fine. I love the strategy aspect. I like here's my business today. This
Yep.
is what I need to solve because I believe I'll get here, and I help with the strategy to get there. So for me, that's the most exciting part. The products or the solution itself is exciting because it's tangible. You can see what the end result is. And when it provides them the solution to get them to where they want to be, yes, there's a satisfaction in that. But I love the strategy aspect. I love the thinking through things.
Like how do you actually then go and think through digital transformation? Because if we're into like now people are talking about Web3 again with prices rising and the Bitcoin ETFs. People talk about, well, you just need to have a mobile app anyways. You need to be digital on the internet in general. Like we just talked about a local shop where you used to go there and drive there to get your pizza, but like most of the people just want Uber Eats and order it, and they don't even care about anything else. Like they don't care about where the pizza comes from. They just want it on that app, right? Like, and then you also add AI to that, where you said, well, you have mass amounts of data, especially if you've been running a business for a long time, so that can actually help you not get disrupted. Like how do you like think about that?
Sure. I mean, well, there's a way I can think about it, but you know, what I think about has to also translate to what a customer's thinking too. So maybe I'll form the connection there. So as a CEO running a company, I'm thinking about how do I stay ahead of the technical curve? How do I stay knowledgeable in everything that's happening? There's not one person in this world I think we can agree with. There's not one person in this world that knows everything except for God. right?
That's true.
Everybody's learning from somebody. Bill Gates talks to Warren Buffett, talks to all these different world leaders, and he learns. He's smart, he shares information, but he's also learning. And I like to associate that with we are all AI, right? We're actually probably the real intelligence. I
That's
talk to
true.
you, I learn from you, you talk to me, you learn from me, we share information. Our brains just got updated. We're now good. So now take it from a CEO perspective. I'm thinking, how do I stay ahead of what's happening out there? And then how do I sit there and talk to CEOs of businesses and explain to them that I don't even think I have to explain to most of them. They understand that they're always a step away of being disrupted by their competitors or by technology changing or the generations change and are going to expect something different from their business than they're offering today. And I think that's probably the simplest way to explain things. Yes, a CEO is worried about the economy. A CEO is worried about what's happening from a political standpoint. A CEO is wondering about, is there going to be a COVID again that will disrupt supply chain? Yeah, they think about those things, but they also have to think about what are our products? How are they doing? Are our customers staying with us? Are our competitors catching up to us? Are we not staying up on all the technical changes that are going on, and we may be caught off guard? So if I'm talking anything from a product standpoint, I think I'm already in the wrong conversation. It really should be talking about where is a company today, what are they looking to achieve, what are some of the problems they may have, and then let's talk about where are you today, what's your strategy and goal to get to this point in the future, and mostly if a business is about profit, they're trying to grow from this year 5%, next year they want to grow 7%, next year 10%, or maybe this year's 10%, next year's 15, the following year's 20. So they have a goal to get to. If they're a public company, they have the pressures from the stock market, right? If they're a private company, they still want to keep growing because if your business isn't growing, well, then your business is dying. So they're most likely driven from a financial aspect and to improve things. The next part is what I'm sure most of them are thinking about is how to retain talent. They have a workforce.
Yep.
What work is an aging workforce? How do they keep bringing in new talent into their company? How do they make it exciting for them? How do they keep the best and brightest coming into their company? Because their competitors are going to try to pull them away from them. So these are the conversations they're most likely having. And then from there, you're able to come up with a strategy of, does digital transformation fix what they're looking to do? Or is it something else? It may not be digital transformation. It may be that they have a hiring problem or they have
Yeah.
somebody in their culture that's actually damaging and having people leave all the time. Well, digital transformation is not going to solve that.
No, no.
So it really depends within the conversation. Where does it fit or does it not fit? But look, I think every business has to pay attention to it based on what I just said. Demographics are changing, generations are changing, technology is changing. If they're not paying attention to that, eventually it's going to become a problem for them.
And especially us nowadays, like my cousin is around like 10 to 12 years old, both of them, and in that age range, like they're talking to me more about Minecraft than I have even played Minecraft in my life. And from fifth to seventh grade, we actually ran our own Minecraft servers because my dad taught me to run my own servers. So we just played on our home computer with friends from school, and they're just playing. They're talking to their friends. They're also still outside a lot because luckily we're from the countryside, so it's easy to go out and just do stuff. But they expect anything to be possible via their phone. Like, why should they call their hairdresser when they can just use another one, click on the calendar, and be ready for it, right? That's also
Yep.
digital transformation. No AI, you just need a calendar, right? A scheduling tool.
100%. So go back to the CEO perspective. A real CEO is thinking about, what does the future look like, but also in the rearview mirror, is something going to catch me off guard? Am I not aware of something that's changing? And look, I believe a lot of CEOs, they have a lot on their mind. They're constantly thinking about what's next, and it's a lot of pressure for them from trying to think about what's going to happen next and not being caught off guard. And it's very difficult. You can't always think of everything. Nobody predicted COVID, right? I mean, no business sat
Yep.
there and said, "Oh yeah, this may happen, and I should have an entire work from home policy." No, nobody. people had that for a different reason. They didn't expect that was going to
Yep.
happen. People don't expect certain massive events to go on, a big earthquake that's going to wipe something out. They don't expect that. But when it comes to something like we just said, especially AI, especially blockchain, you're 100% right. I have a 6-year-old. She's on Roblox all the time. I have
Yep.
11, 13, 15. They're on Roblox playing. They're doing everything in Snapchat. They're looking at everything on their phone. They expect it like that. They want instant satisfaction, instant gratification. Now, you are trying to pull them out and get them to go play in the countryside and go play outside. We do. But what are businesses doing? So now these kids go to college. When they come out of college, what are their expectations? To go work at a company that's going to have something similar to a Snapchat, something they could do from their phone, a work from home policy, something that's more interactive. And if it's not, they're going to say, like, why am I here? This place is so old. They're going to go to another company. To all their friends are talking about it. Hey, do you know this company's doing this? They have this work from home policy. They do this from an interactions policy. They run blockchain. They're running AI. It makes my job so easy. What is that kid going to do? He's going to leave that job and go to another company. So the biggest problem that CEOs have is if they're not paying attention to what the next generations want, they're not going to be able to bring in this talent because that talent's going to look for another place that they believe is cool and is really getting somewhere from a future perspective.
I also have a really good example to that because a friend of mine, she did accounting for a year as an internship and she just needed the money. But at the end, she was like, I'm not even continuing for the money because it's just repetitive all day. They just should use an AI or just any kind of API, not even artificial intelligence, just some kind of way to get the data from the salespeople who enter it into the bookkeeping system without me manually just typing off what they do. And she left the job and they hired somebody else to fill in. But that's one of the examples just in my close friend group where people just left because it wasn't automated.
Yep. And and they're thinking to themselves, this is so like old. Why aren't we doing something different? And I'm sure the next place she goes to is going to be more advanced.
Yeah.
So if you think about things, what are universities and colleges are trying to get the brightest minds to come to them. And what happens, they're literally sucking it away from a country, from a state. Like in the US, if they can pull you to Miami to go to University in Miami, most likely you may stay in Miami. You may stay in Florida because you've got university, you start making connections there. You may stay there. Or you may come back to New York or go to another city. But if they can pull that talent, that mind share into their university, they're improving things. Maybe they keep you there. Companies have to do the same thing. They're fighting for the best. And if they can pull somebody to a different company, they've just lost that mind share. So now they've trained her for 6 months, right? They spent time training her. They had the onboarding. They had all the costs associated with it. They had the HR, entire effort to go. Now she's gone.
Yep.
Now they have to start over again. So it's just going to keep happening because the next one's going to say, why am I here?
She basically worked for a full, like she did a full year, but the first 3 to 6 months always are onboarding and getting familiar. Then she worked for a proper 3 months. And then she had to train her like eventual replacement because they hired some new like interns anyway, which fit really well because then she left. But so she basically just did 3 months of work for a full year of employment because of onboarding and then training the other people instead of doing the job because they brought in other people who she had to onboard.
Yep. I mean, look, this is a business impacting issue, and every CEO and founder understands this. When you're trying to find talent, it's a problem. I'll give you an example, even from that's from a larger corporation standpoint. Let's take it down to an electrician. I know an electrician runs a company, has five trucks.
Yep.
I mean, you think, oh, it's not that big, but I mean, the guy does very well. He has 5 trucks. His biggest complaint is he can't find anybody. I mean, that's a different thing. We talk about trades. That's a different problem. But here's his biggest complaint. I'll bring a guy on. I'll spend 6 months training that person, and then they leave. And I have to start all over again. Do you know how much time that took me to train them and what I lost in doing so? And then they leave.
Yep.
Well, just expand that 10 times, 100 times to a corporation and they're suffering. So you're right. Down to that point is if you're not thinking about how do I upskill employees and provide tools to them that make it sexy and cool to come to, well, you're not going to get the best and the brightest, or they're going to eventually leave. And that's a known thing. I've known law firms. You take large law firms. They're trying to get the best and brightest talent to come to their law firm too, and they're constantly telling them, "We have this system, we have this database, we have this mind share. You can learn from the best, and then you can become a partner." Right? They're constantly selling them on what they can offer them. Well,
Yep.
if they're not, they're just going to go somewhere else.
Yeah,
So
as a employee, you want to be sold the dream, right? So your dream is not to go in a law firm and do the slides or read through the paper and make notes for the associate or the partner. It is to actually become the associate and partner after being a junior, right? You don't go to law school for however long. In Germany, it's around 10 years if you do it proper. With all the internships and all the repetition you have to do. And why do you want to work somewhere where there's no upside?
you got it. Yeah. So
Oh,
so that's it in a shell. I mean, so that's why people should be thinking about digital transformation. That's why CEOs should be thinking about, how do I transform technology? And also they're always worried about the downside. Well, what's the negative this could do? So, that's what they always have to be comforted on, that, they understand the downside too.
what are the top three like downsides that you see in especially AI, but also in digital transformation in general? And how do you make sure that those aren't actual downsides and just perceived risks that are a no factor in the end?
Sure. So the biggest thing, no matter what business it is change. Change. Nobody likes change. Ask anybody to change, they don't like it. Change the furniture in your house, like, oh no, I gotta get new furniture. It's gonna take me time. I gotta order it. In a business, if you change anything, how people do things, most people resist it. They don't want to do it. If you change a phone system, you say, I have a phone on my desk and now I'm going to change it to a client on your PC. Everybody hates it. Nobody wants to do it because you've changed what you've introduced pain.
Yep.
So people recoil from pain and run toward pleasure. But most people are going to recoil from pain more so than they run toward pleasure. If you say to them, yeah, but I can get rid of this phone and this thing's going to be so much easier because you can carry this laptop with you anywhere you want and make a call from anywhere you want. It's going to be so much easier. They're like, no, it's painful. I know how to use that phone. I'm just giving a very simple scenario, right?
Yep.
But change is the biggest problem for any company, is that they have to spend a lot of time doing the road shows of explaining what is the benefit to the business, what's the benefit to you, why we're doing it, where we're going, what's the goals and the strategies. And that's why companies are always talking about, here's where we're going, here's what we're doing, here's what it's going to do for you, here's the benefit to you, this is why it's great that we do this. They're always spending time doing that because you have to get everybody on board, otherwise they don't accept change. So change, no matter which digital transformation or AI, if you don't have those processes to put in place and bring people along, I don't care what you do, it's going to fail.
But if say okay, yeah, we know that there's change and that might be a factor, but how do you actually make sure that it is a no factor in the projects and stuff you do?
Sure. So what we say to clients is the following: you need to build, from an AI perspective, even digital transformation, you need to build an internal team. Take one person from each part of your departments. Think in a middle market company, you have HR, you have legal, you have finance, you have operations, you have probably maintenance, if that's, and you have product, right? So take a person from each one of those areas and you put them on an AEI internal team or a digital transformation team. And what they should be gathering is insight, sharing information around, the table with each other about what is it that we want to do? What are the strategies of the company? Where are we looking to go? And how do we do it? Is there a product that will do it? Is there an AI use case that will do it? Is there a transformation we can make that'll improve what we're looking to do to get to that point? An example from AI. If you say, look, guys, we need to start working in AI. We need a strategy. We need to actually start working on use cases because our competitors are doing it. So that's from top down. We need to
Yep.
work on it because we're going to be out of business if we don't in 5 years. Well, that team should get together, and what they should be talking about is what type of use case could we work on right now that would have an immediate impact, most likely cost savings. So where in the business can we take a tool that works with large amounts of information and we can simplify something, save costs, and probably improve things within the business. Take your friend, for instance. You're right. They could use an AI tool that would actually look at numbers and correlate a lot of information. And then she could be checking the results on that as opposed to doing it all herself.
Yep.
So that team will come up with an idea, say, here's what we do to the executive committee or the CEO, saying, here's what we came up with. All of us have talked about it. Legal's talked about the risk. They've talked about governance. Operations talked about how we'll actually deploy it. Product will talk about, yeah, this is great from a product perspective. We have a buy-in. HR will say, yes, we'll work on how do we internally communicate that? How do we externally communicate that? And they have the plan in place. That is the best way for any company to do anything from a change perspective,
So
especially.
the internal team then is the advocates, right? Where it's like, oh, people hate change, but because Sam is on my team and I really like him, he tried it, he tells me to try it, he is there physically to also help me through it. That's why it works then.
Yes. And I said in one of my posts, and you actually laughed about it, that team then becomes the cheerleaders.
Yeah. I love that analogy because it's like when I hear cheerleaders, the only time in Europe that you actually have cheerleaders is when you watch American football. Uh, so then you just see some like people at the stands where it's like people work in the middle of the field and they're outside there and cheering and being there for the crowd, right?
Yeah.
Um, it's just a crowd show because you have to stand the 30 seconds of ads between each play, basically.
Yeah. Or you could use a different term and say, well, now they transition into the deployment team, the implementation team.
Yeah.
So they've all talked about it. They understand now the benefits to the company, the strategies of the company, the goals of the company, and now they're that representative of each department saying, guys, we have to do this. This is where we go, and we've worked in this, and I'll show you how. So now they take them through it. They help them work through these things. And next, you have a workforce that's much more accepting to what's happening. And it also takes executives too, pushing down and saying, we need to do this because of X, Y, and Z. And then you have to educate them. You have to train them. Offer them training courses, a lot of free AI training courses. Let them start working with it, understand that it's not here to remove your job. It's to make things more productive. I mean, may companies not hire as many people? Maybe. Are they going to fire people?
No.
It depends on how big the company is, but I don't see
Well,
that yet.
no, because we just talked about how hard it is to actually get people and to keep people on. So, like, as long as you're doing a good job, your job is basically safe. And doing a good job also means getting educated, right?
You got
So,
it.
what I see all the time with friends in technology and the development space is there's some people that stayed on one technology for the last 25 years, but that only works if you're in an industry like banking, where you're
Mhm.
working on the core banking infrastructure. And there are less and less people, let me tell you, that are working on core banking infrastructure because most banks outsource. So there are less jobs, but you could technically still keep your COBOL job as a banker and write that old software. But other than that, you had to transition, right? Most of the stuff initially was in the early 2000s. My dad wrote a networking software. Well, now nobody at his bank is writing networking software. Like they are just buying networking software from the few companies that are specialized in doing it.
Yep.
So no, as long as you are educated enough and keep on that path, you'll likely not be let go of. But you
Yep.
need to, I think, make sense of it because every time when I think of AI and people ask me, "Are you afraid of it?" I'm like, "Why should I be afraid of it? I'm going to use it to be even more productive or to work less." Because when you said you can save costs and be more efficient, why would I need to work like an 8 hour accounting shift if I already know how to do the accounting and I can just check the AI for like 2 or 3 hours a day and be fine?
Yep. So fear is also a part of lack of education, right? So if you're not educated, you're fearful. So if they educate themselves on what AI is, you're less fearful because now you understand what it is, and then you can adapt to things that happen. Like an example you gave, I know a lot of the accounting sides are like, oh my God, well, what do you need us for if AI is doing all of it? Well,
Yep.
but that doesn't, but it's doing a piece of it. People still have to
Yeah.
check it. There's probably other things you can do in order to drive business. There's probably other products that you can offer to customers because now you've offloaded some of the menial tasks to something else. So that's a benefit. That's not a negative. So businesses have to think about it. If I'm offloading busy work, then how do I focus on things that will drive more revenue for the business? And that's what everybody, by the way, that AI is not doing that for that. AI is not the only thing in this
Yep.
world that's ever forced a company to do this. Cell phones completely changed and radicalized things. Typewriters disappeared with computers.
Yep.
I mean, everything changes.
My most fun example is always the tractor. When you're out on a farm, you used to have cows, you used to have anything. We have machinery now. Like
Yes.
who's out on a farm doing any manual labor? Uh, and we
You,
still
you,
have farmers.
you see those Caterpillar ones now? They're like $500,000 for a tractor. There's a whole computer system on there. You just press it. You don't have to be in it. It just goes back and forth and does everything on the field that you need to do. It's
Yep.
all grid, AI technology, and just runs.
So what do the farmers do now? Well, some of them still sit in it and check it, and the other ones make sure that you actually get good food. And some farmers that were farmers like 100 years ago, those people moved on to actually produce the food, like be cooks, for example, because they now have the time instead of just producing it to actually work with the food they love and produced before, right? So
Yeah.
it depends on what you do. Like if take the accountant example again, if you're an accountant and you actually understand what you're doing, not to get at anybody, but do you understand what you're doing? Then you can go and be like, oh well, now I have this AI system or this computer system that does the manual mundane work for me. So now I can actually look at the data and see what does the data tell me. How can I go to my CEO and be like, wait, have you're always talking about going in that direction with the company, but I have seen in the data that we're way more profitable in that area, and it just gets hidden behind those three metrics that we
Yes.
didn't see before, and that our AI isn't calibrated to check for. Because
Yes.
what I would love for you to go into how to actually like work with an AI system and solve a business problem with it. Because from my understanding, it's you tell the AI what you want it to focus on, kind of like you train a human to do something, and if that AI system doesn't look at the data in the way that you would need it to do, then you get the same insight out of just doing the mundane work. While that accountant can now go like, okay, where's our actual issue? And if you're not going that path as an accountant, then you'll be replaced. If you go that other path, you're actually more valuable now to the business.
Yeah. So I'll give you a use case. Let me finish up with. So you said, what are some of the three challenges? You have
Yes.
change. That's a big problem. Second one is they're fearful of governance, risk, and the changes, right, in terms of
Yep.
politics and legalities, right? They're very concerned about that because things are changing so rapidly. So that's a concern for them. And then the next thing is spending too much money and not understanding what the return on investment is. So those are the top three concerns on their mind. And then technically it gets down to lack of talent in the company that understands it. Second one is data complexity. And the last thing is, of course, it's the rules, right? Like what do we not know that can get us in trouble and risk our business? So that's from that side. Down to a use case, there's companies that run business intelligence, right? Power BI with Microsoft, and they're getting a lot of information. But AI can take it one additional level. It takes all that information, and you could build anything you want from a custom standpoint. Do you want it to start forecasting out what it sees based on trending information and what they're seeing in the market and from your data, and now provide you a result that you never had before because it didn't provide it to you? You can build all that with AI from a use case perspective. You can get more intelligence from your data than what's being provided today. And that's what people are using it for. So to be a very specific example, it's like, hey, I want to know is how is this product doing in the marketplace with my customers, and is it trending toward this? And then what do I think within my portfolio might trend out to be better based on the data I have? So you have your data. Are you using some external data like from the internet or something like that? Like what's happening in the political space, what's happening in demographics, what's happening with supply chain? It could pull in all that information and give you predictions based on information. At the end, you can't just 100% say, "Oh yeah, it's right." You still have to look at the information and make sure it's accurate, but that'll get you there. There's companies doing it on due diligence now. So when companies want to be bought, there's consulting firms that have their due diligence GPT. Plug in all the data It's going to tell
Yep.
you everything about the company. It's going to tell you how it's going to be profitable going forward, and it's going to be quick. So instead of waiting, 2, 3 months on due diligence, and every time a month goes by, new data is coming in, it keeps pushing you out. They can feed this model and have information immediately. I
Yep.
mean, these companies don't have one system; they have multiple systems,
No,
right?
you also need to double, triple, and quadruple check, especially in those kind of situations. Also in general, but the due diligence one is actually a good example because initially you also talked about, well, one problem that people have is they first of all need to get their data. So okay, yeah, with the due diligence, your partner will just hand you the data because that company has to, but they're likely not in a format that your AI expects and can use, right? So you also have to make sure that that works and make your AI system actually easy enough. Because going back to the accountant friend I have, her problem in the company is that she had to transform the like invoices of the salespeople into their backend system. So there was no automated process in that,
Okay.
which means even if you leverage AI, you still need to make sure that it's a pleasant experience to use and get the insights out of it. Because
Yep.
if the CEO just sees, oh yeah, we should buy that company because it's really cool, but everyone else on the team hates inputting the due diligence data into the AI system, then you haven't done anything good.
Yeah, I mean, it's yes, 100%. So everything's it's got to be simplified. It's got to work. You have to show it modeling and proof up front. You have to do the fine tuning over time to make things better. Just because you build something day one doesn't mean that's it. Like Cadillac has been making cars forever. BMW keeps changing things every single year to improve, to make it better, to have people buy it. AI is no different. You start with one, it gives you a certain result, you tweak, you fine tune, you add new data, you make sure there isn't hallucinations. I know people don't, I hear they don't like the term hallucinations. They like to call it, confabulations. I mean, everybody comes up with all these different terms all the time, but you have to stay up on top of this and then you'll perfect it over time, it becomes better and better and better. And that's what AI is.
Like if you think about the AI's impact on businesses in general, and especially with the way it works. Like, what is the best thing where you say, okay, yeah, you said you have a lot of data, and then you can use AI, but especially it's like, say you're a startup or you're a small business, or that's just generally something where you don't have a lot of data. Like, what are some other cool, creative ways you can use AI?
I mean, look, there's a lot of AI tools out there that companies can just go get that'll do things like from a marketing perspective or writing emails. You have Microsoft Copilot you can use, ChatGPT Teams, right? ChatGPT Plus for business, right? Things like Teams or Enterprise, right? Enterprise is the next one. So you could use all those things today. Businesses can do that today. They just have to pay, $30 a month or whatever it is for that.
Yep.
And now they have their entrance now into the AI space. But now all we've done is leveled the playing field. Everybody else is doing the same thing.
Yep.
Everybody else has it. It's like everybody has the same fast car in Formula One. Everybody's got a fast car. How do you separate yourself from everybody else? And that's why they use AI. Formula One has, I think they say something like 200, 300 sensors on the car and on the drivers. They're
Yep. They
constantly
have
pulling information.
lots of data.
Yes, they're constantly
Zach,
trying to figure out
sorry
how do
to
I.
interrupt on that, but like Zach Brown, the McLaren CEO, said they have around 2 to 3, I think it was a billion simulations they run before each race to be sure that if the temperature of the track changes and the temperature of our tires is that, then
Yes,
we need to actually be a little bit slower, for example, or faster
yep.
in our pit stop strategy, because every pit stop is around 20-23 seconds, and that can decide a race, right?
And
So
why?
that's also one.
It's because the playing field has been leveled. All the cars became exactly the same. It's like, but how do you differentiate between winning and not? It's seconds, right? Or milliseconds, probably in that speed. So they need information in order to adapt and to make decisions. They're running AI all the time, and they, like you said, the simulations. They know everything. How about the driver? How he's moving? How he's breathing? How he's reacting? I mean, they know everything, and then from there they can make tweaks, and that's the difference between winning and the difference between losing. And they put a lot of money into those cars, and they don't want to lose all the time. So you just take that. If Formula One's doing it, when it comes to racing cars, then what about a business? What do you think your competitors are doing? They are trying to get the edge over you every single day. and they're using AI to do it, or they're going to use AI to do it. And if they just roll out a tool like Microsoft Copilot, like you asked, what can they do? Can they use ChatGPT Plus, Teams, Enterprise? Can they use, Perplexity? Can they use, all these different tools that are out there to do things? Great. Go right ahead and do it. Start getting used to it. But everybody else is doing the same thing as well. So you're eventually going to have to customize and build something for yourself that's actually specific to your business that will help differentiate you from anybody else.
How do you actually go and think about those AI systems when it's just like you don't want to use the tool anyone else uses, or you have to anyways, but how do you actually think about it from a mind perspective? Because it doesn't get you anything to just, like you said, buy the tools and level the playing field, because if you want to have an edge, also have to have a mental edge. So like, how do you think about those kind of systems?
Well, I mean, the way I think about it, it comes down to, I said in the beginning, strategy, right? I'm always thinking about, hey, what's a strategy? And you're right. If somebody just runs out, things have never changed over time. So companies have gone out and bought a software. Maybe kept saying software is eating the world. They've run out and bought a software package saying, we need this. They go implement it in the business, and then they realize, oh crap, that software now relies on connectivity to another system, and that's going to take upgrading. We didn't think about that. Or, oh, it's not really working the way we wanted to. So they just went and bought an off-the-shelf product, put it into their business, expecting it's going to give them panacea, right? It's everything they ever needed, and they find out it doesn't work. And that's why it comes down to, if you're thinking about it, you have to still have an AI strategy. You should still sit down and think about, what am I trying to achieve? Do I really go spend the money on Microsoft Copilot or ChatGPT Teams or Enterprise and put that into my business? Have you thought about, did you train anybody? How long is it going to take you to train people in order to use it? You're going to have what, 5%, 10% of your organization that knows how to do it out of the gate? The other 80 to 90% or 95% are going to be like, I don't know what this is. I'm not using it. Well, now you just wasted all your money every month. So you can't just run out and start doing something. Have a strategy, have a plan, understand how everything integrates with each other and how things are going to work, and then make a decision. If it makes sense to go to ChatGPT Teams or Enterprise or Microsoft Copilot, then do it when you have all the information. But just don't run out and do it, because you're probably missing all the other pieces.
How do you actually go and then dive deep into those? Because if, say you want to use it and you're thinking about building out that strategy, what are the kind of things that you have to look at? Like say I'm a CEO looking at my business and I'm like, oh yeah, we want to use AI. We just don't want to run out and give Microsoft all the money. I need to actually make it make sense. You said, okay, we're training the people and all, but like, what's the framework for the mind of somebody that is starting to run those thoughts?
Well, Microsoft, that's an easy one, because most people are Microsoft shops. So if they're running Microsoft Office, if they're running laptops that run Microsoft Office, they're not using Apple, they're using Microsoft. I have an Apple,
Yep.
but they run everything there. They have Azure from a cloud perspective. Are they using some of the other Microsoft products like Power BI or all these other things they have? Naturally, they're going to be inclined to stay with Microsoft. They're
Yep.
probably not going to run out and go chat Teams and Enterprise. While maybe that's better solution than Microsoft for them, it's like, wait, but now we're changing things and we're adding something in that people don't really know, and then people have to go learn. And now I have a workforce that understands Microsoft. Now I introduce something else. You're bolting on all these different things. So from that perspective, it would be, what is the culture? What are you used to? What do you guys work with? What are you trying to achieve? What is the outcome? What's your strategy? And then from there, you can come back and say, you know what, for you guys, what would make sense would be Microsoft Copilot, because you're already a Microsoft shop. Everybody understands it. You're already there. It integrates with everything. You can work with Azure. It's perfect for you. Or some company be like, yeah, you're there, but you have all these other systems. You guys are so used to everything else. The best in the market for what you're trying to do is ChatGPT, Teams, or Enterprise. That will give you, most bang for your buck, as they would say. But that doesn't mean that that's the way it stays for the next 5 years. They could eventually change in 5 years. So you're always trying to plan out for, what are they doing, where are they going, and what makes most sense for them based on the data that you have at that time.
So you're saying, okay, well, I need to first of all, figure out what I actually want to do. And then I
Yes.
need to figure out, what do I have in the business that is the easiest path to just add one step to
Yes.
that end goal. So like, I need to write down, okay, this is where I need to go. I want to make more money, but that's not a good goal. Um, I actually need to figure out a way to help customers or help my employees or help the business in general be better, and then I can then that results in making more money. So how can we do that? You said, well, if we already have Microsoft, we can just use them, but how does that help us to our goal? Like, how do you make the decision of, does what we want to do actually help us in our goal, and how do you define those goals?
And that's part of the assessment too in the beginning. So if you're, I mean, that's why I always talk about an AI strategy and readiness assessment. A strategy is what do you believe AI is going to do for your business, or do you have any ideas of what it could do for your business? Let us give you some ideas and what other people are doing, or understanding your business, what would be best for you. So what's good for one company is not good for another. You know that saying, the grass isn't greener on the other side? That's a saying. Well, it's true
Yep.
for a company. You can have a manufacturing company, two manufacturing companies, and one has solved supply chain. They have no issues with supply chain. They've built in all these defenses. Another company has major issues that they foresee on supply chain. Both do the same thing, two different problems. One can have problems with people. They can't retain their people because they're constantly leaving. Another one can have all the greatest people in the world because, I don't know, the culture is different. So you have to understand from a business itself, what is their culture? What are they looking to do? What is most important to them? What is the driving force of the business? Is it purely just profit? Is it culture and profit? Is it culture, growth, and profit? Is it culture, growth, profit, technology adaptations to make sure they're the best in the business ever in their industry? Like, what is the driving force? And then from there, you can help them develop the strategy that makes most sense to them.
But like, say I'm the CEO of one of those businesses, so I already know all that. Like, I know my business well,
Yep.
and how what's like the questions that I should ask myself if I were to come up with a strategy and think about working with that and going there.
My first thing then, if companies know a lot about what they're looking to do, is if you're going to start your foray into AI, let's make it simple. Focus on cost savings. Focus on a very small project that we can work with your team and find out an area of the business that will be something easy to tackle, or use another word, easy to actually start and end in a short period of time. That'll be a good use case or a business case to show cost savings. So it doesn't rattle the entire business. It doesn't change the entire business. And the reason why you do that is it starts to build up AI proficiency. It gets them used to, oh, I started with a small project. It got me cost savings. It paid itself off. It's given me a good result. This stuff works. I like this. Now they've become more intelligent and proficient with AI. And now you can move to the next step. Let's go a little bit deeper into the business. Let's look at something that's a little bit tougher. We now know this stuff works. Let's start on the next project. And now you can get a little bit more creative or custom in what you're trying to do. And that's the benefit to businesses that have already started working on AI today versus the ones that are still waiting. The ones that are waiting are actually falling behind because the others are becoming more proficient. Their businesses are becoming proficient. Their employees are becoming proficient. They're becoming used to it. Hey, we do this all the time. And then they just start rolling out use cases much faster because everybody's all ready for it. Versus another one that never started, they're scared, they're nervous, they don't know how it's going to work, what's going to be the impact, are people going to be upset? And it takes them so much longer to begin. So that's what I would say to any business that has great ideas on what they want to do. Start on something small, cost savings, because that is probably the best thing to do. Everybody wants to save costs.
Also, it's instantly noticeable in the bottom line, right? Like, where I'm working with some businesses, like local businesses, that want to do AI chatbots, and most of them have moved away from chatbots because they didn't see the chatbot in their bottom line, right?
Yeah.
But if you then go, oh yeah, but I'm a local business, and now my AI does my employee planning, in the sense that the AI knows, okay, this is roughly the estimate I need for that employee in terms of bookings and all that. So as long as bookings come in, I'm actually making the schedule for them. Um, You'll probably save a lot of cost because their time is going to be utilized way more. It's not a direct impact, and it's not as flashy as, well, yeah, we're using AI fully in our web page so everyone can chat with the chatbot. Like,
Yeah, no,
nobody uses that anyway, right?
no, that's a customer service thing. That's a customer service metrics which keeps customers happy with you. That maintain that over time, but you're not going to see a quick cost savings on that unless IKEA did it. And I put a post out. I mean, John Kraske was like, I worked at IKEA, and I didn't know. IKEA started in 2021. Again, AI has been around for a while. They've deployed AI into the business with chatbots, et cetera, for you from a customer service standpoint to ask questions. And they took 8,500 call center employees and retrained them to be interior designers. And they increased revenue by 1.5 billion euros by doing that. Well, they
But
used chatbots differently.
how did they do it differently? Because like I'm trying to figure out like what is the thoughts and the questions and the things that I can do and think to make sure that I'm the one that uses it differently and not just that way. Because for IKEA, it's probably they actually did a chatbot that was helpful,
Yes.
probably, and actually saved them time instead of just a fancy gimmick on the webpage.
Correct. 100%. And they've been doing it for a while, and that would help them do it. But any business, I would say, look at what you're doing in your business and figure out where every business every day wakes up and tries to figure out how do I cut costs to increase profits and hire more people, right? Or if I cut costs, then I can make more money, and that's why I'm in business. But not sacrifice the value of my service to my end customer. Otherwise, they'll leave me. So any business, I would sit there and say, what is it that I'm doing today or what we're doing today that is costing us money and we can cut costs in there? And so a couple ideas are the following. One, people talk about procurement. Well, if you're a larger company, are you working with 10 different companies that you buy your paper from or your tape from or your supplies from? Is there a way you can use AI that will look at what your overall usage of these supplies are and you can streamline it and cut costs by doing so? Maybe you'll find out you're buying paper. I'm just using a very simple example, but you're buying paper for an office and they don't use paper that much. Well, then why are you spending money and sending it there and let it sit there if it's not being used? But any business, I would look at what is it you're doing and how can you do it better, more efficiently, and how can you cut costs out of it? So the example used in a retail store, if the owner is spending a lot of time of trying to train employees and onboard them when they should be at the counter helping their employees sell and make money, then there might be an AI solution that could train their employees on how to do things. I mean, I think there's Web3, they're trying to do that where they, metaverses, they do training for like Walmart, et cetera, where they can just sit there and they see the whole store and learn everything from that perspective. But what if there's a process that you can eliminate people from doing that you can put out into the front of the business that makes more money, productivity, selling things, and it offloads the stuff in the back end that's really menial work that they shouldn't be doing?
So it's basically ask yourself the question: how can you make the computer or the AI replace yourself with?
Yeah.
Right?
Or,
It might be a question that is hard
yes.
emotionally, but it's like the right one to ask.
Or I would think from this perspective, like I say to things, every day you wake up running a business, you should be thinking about your top 3 things you should be doing today that'll drive your business forward. Move the rest of the stuff to the end of the day or offload it to somebody else. A CEO of a company shouldn't be dealing with an employee issue if that's what you have HR for, right? That's their job. A CEO should be thinking about strategy. Where am I going with the business? He should be thinking about where are things going, etc. Think about your business and say, wow, where are we spending most of our time? Where's the business spending most of the time? And that time that we're spending there, is that generating revenue for the business? Or is that a cost to the business? So think of a store. If people are spending a lot of time stacking stuff in the back and getting things all organized, and they're spending all stuff in the back of the store doing that, but yet there's only one person at the counter serving a client, you probably should rethink that model. And so that might be, hey, is there something we could do with AI? Just a very simple thing. But businesses should think about where are my people spending all their time and how do I get them to spend more time in selling products and services to our end client? Because that's how we generate revenue. And any CEO can think about that and say, wow, yeah, I could probably do something a little different. And then AI might be the solution, or it might be something different. Maybe it's they have to change their facility. Their facility is so old, it's so outdated, they got to get out of there because they should be doing something a little bit different. It could be something like that as well. But I'm pretty sure that AI can replace a lot of processes they have and push people now to the forefront of generating revenue for the business.
And now looking at actually like doing that when you go and replace a process, we already talked about like kind of the pain points and all that you look for and how to actually eliminate them. Where you already said, well, yeah, first one is I actually don't want to change. Then I may
Yeah.
not be educated enough. Then I need my cheerleaders, like my internal team, to actually fix that and help with that. And Now if you're looking into, okay, how can we actually get it done, like what are the best like resources, blog posts, YouTube videos, kind of things where you're like, okay, anyone out there thinking about actually doing that, besides looking at your LinkedIn, obviously, what is the best resource to go into and actually learn about how it works, how to think about
Sure.
it, and all that?
There's a ton of free courses that talks about AI, like more so than ever. There's courses out there for free. There's courses on Coursera that they'll charge you for, but they'll talk to you about the basics of AI. So CEOs, I mean, they can reach out to me as well. I have like a sheet of like 10 different courses, some that are very specific to certain areas and others that generally just talk about AI in general and what it means and how you work with it, etc. But there's tons of training out there. You can just type into LinkedIn AI training. You could type into Google AI
Like
training.
what are your like favorite ones, like your top two favorite ones? Because like for me it feels like every time I try to Google it, there's so much bullshit in the front page of Google. Like
Yep.
the best SEO wins on Google, not the best course, right?
I'll send it to you. But there's one called Microsoft Generative AI Basics, and it's I think it's like 15 modules, and a woman is explaining it, and she does a fantastic job. And I have the link. It goes through LinkedIn, but I have it. I could share it with you, and you
Yes,
could share it
you
with
could
your
also make that
team as well.
a LinkedIn post, and we'll link that in the show notes so people can actually go and look. Because like one of the hardest things I find is people just getting started. Like get people started, because we talked a lot about, okay, how can you actually do it and think about it, but like how can you actually get started when you're not there? I think is also why we're making this podcast. Like this podcast started because I was like, I'm too technical. I understand the tech, but the business side is way underrepresented in all those discussions. But then the business people are like, well, so now how do I actually get started and understand it? And that's where those awesome resources always come in. And I'm always happy to have people like you come in and be like, oh yeah, this is the course you should go to. You, save yourself the 3 hours of Googling, just like watch
Yep.
that one, and then that will give you pointers to topics that then you can Google, but you don't need
Yep.
the 0 to 1. You're already at one, and then you can ask
100%.
good questions and all that.
Yeah, I mean, like, why spend all the money right now if you don't even have like a general idea? Start on some of the free courses that it's like stepping your foot into the water. Is it cold? Is it warm? Like, do you like it? You want to go a little deeper? And then from there, you'll get some good ideas. And then everybody has a different way of processing information. You might say, wow, I really love what I'm hearing here. I want to go further. And then they start having ideas within their own business saying, wow, I think this could actually fit in the business. Let me go a little deeper. So yeah, I could share that with you. At least that one course, it's like 5 minutes per module, and they got a whole bunch of modules in it. She does a great job explaining it. So that's one. Educate yourself, because an educated buyer is a better buyer as well.
Yep.
Like if you're spending more time trying to explain to them, and they're thinking you're trying to get one over on them, or just trying to charge them for some, flighty technology that's never going to do anything. Well, that's not a benefit to me. That's not a benefit to them from a time
There's a
perspective.
lot of that in tech. Like
Yes.
sometimes people will send me specifications that companies wrote for them, or just tell me about their stories of having a product developed. And I'm like, dude, they charged you a week for something that took them one configuration change. Um, it's just people can't be educated on everything, but I think that's why those resources are important, because you can get a basic understanding to know if you're being ripped off or not.
Yes.
And I think that's really important, so you can actually decipher what's the good course and what's the bad one after doing that one.
Yeah.
um,
And look, an educated buyer is easier for a company to sell to. When,
yep.
when when they're not, it is a very very hard sale or a hard journey, because they're constantly concerned about what they think you're doing or not doing, because they just don't understand. But when you understand it's so simple. You understand the person saying, you know if they're being truthful, you know if it makes sense, you know what the end state's going to be, you're comfortable. And now that's the person you want to work with. So I'd rather an educated buyer. I tell them, learn more as much as you can. It's better for you anyway.
Yep. What's like closing thought, like what's your biggest opportunity that you see in AI in general? Like if you had to pinpoint one exact thing that is the biggest single opportunity in AI that you see, what would it be?
So my biggest opportunity or end customer's biggest opportunity?
Go with whatever you want. What's the biggest opportunity?
So I think I think the greatest opportunity is, this is the fourth industrial revolution. This is the greatest opportunity for businesses, individuals, and companies to learn a technology that is going to transform our everyday life going into the future. This is a technology that, again, I was growing up with the internet when it came out, dealing with the modems, the dial tone, and took forever. I mean, the internet changed everything. It's made multimillionaires. It's created businesses, out of thin air. It's provided people so much opportunity. It's allowed us to educate ourselves. It has been a wonderful thing to happen. Just like cars being developed was probably the best thing that ever happened, right? People that had horses and doing horseshoes didn't think so, but the cars were fantastic. So AI now is the greatest opportunity for companies to start, for businesses to begin, for businesses to improve, for people to learn, for people to grow, for people to achieve things in their life that they never had the opportunity to do so. So I think this is one of the greatest times to be part of and to be on the forefront of it. So I have nothing but excitement over what it is. I'm not thinking of fear things, because the more I educate myself, the more I understand it, the more I can stay out in front of what's happening, and I can adapt to all the changes. But this is the greatest time to be alive right
So
now.
for you, it's like, okay, the biggest opportunity is actually get educated about it and start playing with it and just experiment. Like the experimentation with it is the opportunity.
Yep. And if
That's
you're if
awesome.
you're if you're a person starting a business, you can start a business utilizing AI, and you have great opportunities. If you're a large business, you can grow your business. Kids coming out of college are going to be creating things that are going to revolutionize how we do things. So it's the greatest time to be alive right now. This is pretty exciting, and
Awesome.
everybody agrees with that as well.
Thank you so much for the input, Kurt. Thank you for coming on.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
That's awesome. Thank you for listening, and thanks for the guests for coming on to Tech Suite for the C-Suite. In the description below, or the show notes, whatever you want to call them, you will find the awesome resources our guests mentioned to get you started. You can find links to our guests, and you all can also find a summary, takeaways, and other links to keep connected with the show. Thank you so much for listening. Have an awesome day.